Hi, this is Rob from Rob's Roast Coffees, wanting to give you an introduction to where coffee comes from and what it takes to get coffee from these coffee growing regions around the world to your coffee cup. We're going to start by looking at the map in front of you here of the main coffee growing regions. You've got a tropical belt north and south of the equator that wraps around the earth where coffee can grow. Central America, South America, Africa, Asia. Some of the islands where coffee can grow are a little too small to note on there, like Hawaii and Jamaica, but you can see some of your favorite coffee growing regions over there. And then another little bit of jargon for you. The two main coffee species that are used in commercial coffee are Arabica and Robusta coffee. And just a quick explanation, the Arabica is a much taller tree and has to grow at altitude up in the mountains, usually 1,000 meters above sea level or about 3,500 feet above sea level. It's much more sensitive to heat. And so the cooler night air in the mountains stops them from spoiling and going rotten. The Robusta beans do not have to grow at higher altitudes. They're more resistant to heat and they can grow at lower altitudes. Otherwise, they're very similar in the way they look, the way they grow, the way they get processed. Coffee is a fruit, and these fruits growing on the tree, you can see there, they start out as green fruits, and as they ripen, they get redder and redder. We call them coffee cherries. They're not in the same fruit family as cherries, but that's just the terminology that we use. And when they get ripe and reach their full redness, they get picked and sorted. Arabica coffee beans have to be picked and sorted by hand generally because growing up in the mountains, there aren't that many mechanical ways of picking them and sorting them. Robusta is a little bit easier to use mechanical processes. But once they've reached their full ripeness, that's what they look like. But on the inside is kind of interesting. What this diagram shows you is some of the layers that have to be processed away in order to get to that delicious little coffee bean on the inside there so that roasters like me can roast up the coffee for you and make it drinkable. You got a skin, a pulp, mucilage, parchment. You got all these different layers that have to go through different processes, which we're going to talk about in a separate video. Another little bit of jargon for you is on the inside of the coffee, you have two distinct different types of coffee beans. The pea berry, which accounts for about 10% of the crops, is a single bean that grows. It's just an anomaly. It's kind of a random thing. You can't really plan for it. Regular coffee beans are two beans inside the coffee cherry, as you can see on the right there. Generally speaking, pea berry is considered to be a more intense, more flavorful coffee bean. Places like Kenya are kind of famous for growing pea berry coffee. It's not something you can plan for. It's just something that about 10% of a crop is going to turn out that way. So the next video that we're going to produce for you is going to be talking about the processes and what it takes to get through the coffee fruit and produce those lovely dry green coffee beans you can see in the sack there. That's what it looks like when your friendly local roaster like myself receives the coffee beans at the roasting plant. So keep an eye out for our part 2, coffee processing. And if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer your questions and maybe even produce more videos on other subjects if that's something that you'd like to see me do.